is a currency, and the currency well spent can do a great deal of good in the world.
Sharon Stone shot to international fame after her role in Basic Instincts, which propelled her to superstardom in the 1990s. Her work has also earned her Golden Globe nomination and Oscar nominations. She's since added many strings to her bow, including humanitarian, author, and painter. I caught up with her at a festival in Italy where we talked movies, life, and politics. So Sharon Stone, thank you so much for joining us on the BBC's 100 Women. First of all, how are you?
Just tickled. I'm so excited. Can't believe I got chosen for this list. Thank you.
One thing I do want to explore with you are women in Hollywood. Behind the scenes, you've got quite a plethora of titles to your portfolio, if you like. Is that something that is growing in Hollywood?
You know, this comes in waves and spurts, and it goes away in waves and spurts. Movies were written, directed, and produced, edited, and distributed by men, right? So they were written to be the fantasy of men, and women were playing the fantasy of men, and they were edited to be the fantasy of men. And the critics decided if you met the fantasy, and that was it, right? So, you know, a lot of the characters I played, I thought, well, they're either high or drunk or crazy, because how else could you justify this behavior? I think we're getting to a place where women are just playing how a woman would actually behave in this circumstance. So what I think is happening is then the editor and the critic and the audience and everyone is now like, okay, what are we going to do with that? Right? Because I think part of this sophistication and understanding and cultural growth, women just don't wake up in the morning and already have their makeup on and have slept in rollers and, are running around the house with a feather duster. You know, we don't have time anymore, and economically the world is not supporting that. And the world is just very different now. And so reality has seeped into the media. Shock. So I don't know if it's really just placing women in a predatorial position. I feel that's going to have to happen because guess what? That's what is happening from the audience point of view.
I saw on your Instagram on election day, November 5th, you wearing the T-shirt, "Yes, Madam President."
I was so helpful.
Where were you when you heard the election result, and how did you feel in that instant?
It's a little bit like a game show, okay? I only take it all so seriously. I only invest so much. And then I get back to what I do. I'm not a politician. Is it horrifying? Is it a citizen of the country I love? Yeah. Is it scary? Yeah. But do I want my country to grow and be its best? Learn and develop? I do. Is this what my country asked to do? Yes. Am I going to respect the office of the president? Yes. Because that is what a democracy does.
Some might not use the words that you've just used to describe the political landscape that America's about to go into.
Our country is very young. And where we are now in Italy, having this conversation, or in England, or in France, these are countries of many, many centuries. Each of these countries has had time to go through different phases of their growth and understanding and cultural experience. America is kind of in its adolescence, right? America's a new country. And we haven't experienced the things that you've experienced. And maybe over 80% of Americans don't have passports. And we are not number one in education. We're maybe 49th or something in education. So, and for those of us who have traveled extensively, whose jobs like mine take us all over the world, to first, second, and third world countries, to countries that are at peace, and to countries that are at war, we have different experiences of the world than 80% of our fellow countrymen. So I see the world a little bit differently than a lot of my country. That doesn't mean I'm not a patriot, right? I am. I love my country, and I want my country to do well. But my country hasn't experienced a lot of the things that I have seen, and hasn't conferred with a lot of people in these countries I've traveled with who have had um, fascist experience, communist experiences, war on their own country land, that is world wars, hasn't had these incredible um, cultural revolutions. America hasn't had that, right? And our country, for the first time, has banned books, right? Other countries in Europe already learned the heartbreaking lesson of this. So 80% of my country doesn't know what that means. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't know.
I remember when I was younger watching you in Basic Instinct. Can't believe my parents allowed me to, but it happened. Um, how often do you get asked about that scene, and how do you feel about being asked still about that scene?
I don't think anybody's talked to me about it in a really, really long time.
Okay.
It's like asking Daryl Hannah how she felt about wearing a mermaid's tail.
Is there any particular role that you went for that you didn't get but you would have loved to have played?
I'm sure at the time, but sitting here now, no. Because I am so sure that when there's a no, it's because there's a yes somewhere else.
When you look back on your body of work, what's the most proud thing that you've done? And it could be any body of work. I'm not narrowing it down to the acting or the painting or the writing.
So I did this auction, Project LA. Someone said they wanted to buy a kiss from me. And so I got the bidding going, and I got both a man and a woman bidding to buy a kiss, and I got them bidding against each other. And we bought a fleet of vans. And I really learned a lot about that. I would say more than anything, if you would ask me about Basic Instinct, that's what I learned from that movie. Because I got made into an idea of something, and I sold it for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to raise money for AIDS research. I'm really proud that I took this idea that was made up in this movie, that I was really sexy, and used it to fight a disease where people were getting punished for their sexuality because I was getting punished for mine. So it wasn't just the fact that I did a scene where I crossed my legs, which we were not previously supposed to do, but that I showed my bare armpits. So there were all kinds of boundaries that were expanded for women in film. But most of it was the expansion that I took ownership, the character, not really me, but the character that I played took ownership of her sexuality. And that really was so unusual. And so I think I'm most proud that we used that successfully philanthropically.
because you were labelled a term that we don't use anymore, sex symbol.
Sex symbol.
Sex
The last,
femme fatale.
last of the sex symbols.
Would you say that was a moniker or a curse?
I wouldn't say it was either.
What would you say it was?
Just the way it was.
Sharon Stone established herself as one of the biggest stars in Hollywood in the 90s in blockbusters from Casino to Basic Instinct. But in the decades since becoming an icon of cinema, she's reinvented herself as a humanitarian and more recently as a painter.
I put paint on and then pull it back off to get certain effects. It's more of an emotional going on, like that release from structure.
However, she recently disclosed that in the early 2000s, she was given a 1% chance of survival following a brain hemorrhage, a diagnosis that changed the course of her career and her life. So the theme of the 2024 100 Women is resilience. How do you cope with resilience? What do you do to be resilient?
I think we can choose to get all wound up in these distractions. We can choose to moan, or we can choose joy. I think you have to just keep choosing joy.
You have had some really huge things happen in your life.
Yes, I have.
The brain hemorrhage that you survived,
Yes.
the things that you fight for, you fight hard for them,
Yes.
as well as getting into the flow and keeping the good energy around you. What other resilient tactics do you put into place?
I stay present. I think if you look back, even for a split second, you can really F yourself up. You have to work at so hard to stay present. You fell down, get up. Someone pushed you down, now they want to help you up, let them. You push someone down, oops, get them back up. Let's get back in the game. It's really hard work. That's why you have to do breath work, because you have to breathe when you'd rather punch someone in the face.
Yes.
That'll save you. I mean, you have to learn breathing techniques. You have to learn to stand in warrior pose. For me, because I needed discipline. I'm a fast pony. I had to learn to hold my own reins.
With your brain hemorrhage, I read that you didn't like the Sharon before, but you love this Sharon.
Well, I would say that I didn't like the Sharon before. I mean, that Sharon before moved out of a no stoplight farm town in northwestern Pennsylvania and became a global superstar and started that work, that charity work. And might not have exploded if she wasn't met with so much resistance. You know, might not have exploded if there was any help to be had being her. Might not have exploded if there was a female agent to be had, or, you know, anybody to have helped me or guided me. I mean, thank God I had people like Shirley MacLaine and Faye Dunaway and Diane Cannon and people who had been there before me to talk to me. You know, people want to say all kinds of things about these women that went before me who walked a much harder road than I did. And they have no idea. No idea. But those women were very good to me. Very good to me. And really told me what to expect and how to take care of myself. What to do, what not to do. So that I could be safe in difficult situations. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
So after your brain hemorrhage, your book entitled The Beauty of Living Twice feels almost like you felt that this was a second shot at life.
It's a completely different life. My brain got shoved into the front of my face. I mean, my whole DNA shifted. My body type shifted. The food I was allergic to shifted. The food I liked shifted. The people that I was familiar with shifted. Oh no, I'm a very different person. Very, very different person. Oh gosh.
And if you could write a letter to yourself, you pick the age, giving you a piece of advice on resilience before or after the brain hemorrhage, what would you say?
Uh, mhm. I would just say, you're going to make it. You're going to make it. You're going to make it. You don't know it, but you're going to make it. That's what I would say. I would want to have known it so many times. Yeah. I would wanted to have known it when I was on the floor and couldn't get an ambulance and couldn't get any help. I would wanted to have known it when they wouldn't believe me at the hospital. When I kept losing in custody court and I had to remortgage my house and I didn't have any money. But I really learned what is a very important thing to know, especially at this time in the world, that people can take everything from you. Everything. Your global identity, your job, everything you work for, everything you have, your family, your health, the possibility that you would have a future, but they cannot take your soul.
That's why you're a beacon of resilience, as you hung on to that.
Oh man, I was teeth down in the dirt, man.
What is Sharon Stone yet to achieve?
I have a plan.
That you're going to share or not share?
I'm not going to share till it happens. I can't break the manifestation.
But you have a plan.
I am a plan.
And is it a multi-leveled plan?
Yes. Naturally.
But you have a plan.
I have a plan.
And you are not done yet.
No.
You've gone into a new chapter of your life. Painting.
I love being in the studio. I just love it. And because it's the house next door to my house, it's the greatest. Because my kids can run in and out and my friends are coming in and out, and it's such a warm environment, and it's just the greatest.
I wonder what, I took a list of the names. I wondered what Some Heroes or Tulips, Tuesday Evening, I wonder what was going through your mind when you were doing those.
You know, it's I name them afterwards when I see them, because I don't see them when I'm painting them. I'm really painting, you know where they call like automatic writing? I'm like automatic painting. I'm just painting. I'm in this kind of thing. And I don't really know kind of what I've painted until I'm almost finished painting. I'm just in it so deeply. And it isn't till, you know, I have you know, these paint tables, and then on the other side I have some chairs. And then I'll go sit in the chairs and look at it, and I can tell if I want to do anything else. And it's only when I'm sitting in the chairs looking at them that I have some idea of what's going on.
And what's your inspiration?
You know, my aunt had a master's in painting, and I spent a lot of time with her when I was a kid, and she was a muralist. And she painted on the walls of the house. So it was so normal because, I was 5 and she was painting on the walls. So, that does give the inclination to be quite free. And so I just started painting in quite large format because it seemed normative to me. So, my paintings are very large.
And then when you started exhibiting, how did you feel?
Well, I hadn't really planned to do that, but I made a painting for this dear friend of mine, and I took it to her birthday party. It was wrapped, and she had me unwrap it. And all of a sudden, these people started asking me for commissions. They said, "And how much would it cost?" So I just started throwing out big numbers like, "Okay," like, and they started saying, "Okay." And then I started panicking, and I said to my friend, I have to go. I have to go. Let's get out of here." And about 10 days later, I got offered a show. So I just kind of picked what I thought were the best of what I'd painted and had a show. And then I started thinking, you better start figuring out how to have a show. And now I've had shows, you know, shows in other countries. I have a museum show coming up.
And you have sold work.
I've sold a bunch of work.
Staggering amounts of money.
Yeah, for for shockingly great money. Yeah. Yeah.
Just from doing something that you absolutely
That I love. And I really think that that should be advice to everyone. Follow your bliss.
Are we allowed to talk about Bumble?
Oh, that's hilarious. Yes.
Because
This explains so much.
what happened?
I went on Bumble and they kicked me off because they said it wasn't me. And then they used the publicity that they kicked me off, which I thought was, so now I'm on a different site. But honestly, I don't know. I think that these catalogs for dating don't give you the thing that dating's all about, which is chemistry. And isn't that what it's all about?
100%.
Yeah. You have to sniff that out for yourself like a truffle pig.
Yeah. Except I don't want to do that. That sounds exhausting. How are you finding it?
Well, you can't smell through the pages.
What do you say to yourself when you're on the verge of giving up?
Well, I think I either need food, sleep, a bath, to go outside, or to call my friends.
Those are the things that you're literally cycling through your head.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Going back to all the things that you fought for, what is the fight that you think is worth fighting for?
Decency.
Mm.
Because I think if you're a decent person, you're going to take care of people the way you'd like to be taken care of.
And then Sharon Stone, what is your superpower?
I'm very consistent. I'm a consistent person. I think that when people meet me, because I'm kind of a intense person and I'm a little bit seemingly eccentric because I'm kind of fast tick. People think that I'm not going to be consistent. People think that they should pick the more steady Eddie person. I think that people are surprised by my consistency, by the fact that I raised 3 kids that I adopted. I think people are just, "Oh, yeah, right. Oh, no, she's not a drunk. She's not a crazy person. She doesn't, have relationships like a revolving door. Look, I think that all that always surprises people about me.
Your superpower is that you're consistent.
I think that's my superpower. I mean, it's not that I don't lose my temper, or freak out or do things like everybody else, but I think overall, pretty ordinary, pretty much an ordinary kid.
But a fantastic woman.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Sharon Stone, for
Thank
joining
you
us
so
on
much,
100
too.
Women.
Thank you.
Thank you.